Welcome to Game of the Republic Throne Cast. I am Ed.
You're Eddard Stark.
I am Lord Eddard Starkenkovich.
I've got nothing. There's no one really like Carl in Game of Thrones.
Carl Snow.
Carl Snow. That's it. Or
I have
Carl
a father,
Sand.
but I have a father, but I'm still a bastard.
That's right. Call myself Carl Sands because they treat the bastards better down there.
Ooh. I like that there's snows and sands. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I always thought that was pretty neat. Like when they like introduced that, like, oh, because Snow's just kind of like the bastard surname, and it's like, oh, so Sand is the bastard surname for Martell. That's interesting.
Yeah.
The Dorn. So.
Right. So you got the north, you got the south. I don't know if there's any in between. Like, what's the North Carolina climate? Bastards.
Yeah.
What are they called?
I don't know. That's a good question. Should ask my mom sometime.
Yeah. Yeah.
But,
cool. So today we are we're talking sex and violence, but we'll kick it off with the sexier side.
yeah, because that's the thing. HBO, being on HBO gives them a lot of leeway with their content, and it's pretty impressive what they get away with sometimes. And not just in Game of Thrones, but like on television in general. But Game of Thrones definitely has a fair mix of all that stuff that a growing boy needs. You know, it's like a steady diet of like boobies and decapitation and dragons. You know?
Sometimes all in the same scene.
Yeah, literally, like all in the same scene. Someone getting killed, dragons, and boobies. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I gotta admit that when I see the warnings at the beginning, it's usually stacked. The entire screen is stacked with a description of everything that you're gonna see, from violence and language and nudity and graphic situations and super violence, and all that kind of thing. And then sometimes it's just like, violence and adult situations. I'm like, oh, what?
Exactly. Like you gauge, like, oh man, how over the top is this episode going to be? It's like, it's so sweet. It's like it's so. I'm gonna lick my fingers.
Yeah.
It's like how much awful stuff is going to be in it. So.
But I mean, they never disappoint, because even though it's only like 2 or 3 warnings, it's like, okay, that means there's no full frontal nudity from anyone. That means they're getting down to business. Like now, shit's gonna go down.
Exactly. Like, oh, this is gonna be a story episode, not a booby episode.
Yeah. Those are fun and great and all, but man, things are gonna happen tonight.
And that's the thing, is there's always something happening in Game of Thrones. They do a really good job pacing it out, because that was the problem I had with True Blood. There was also another HBO show. It seemed like literally every episode ended on like a cliffhanger. It's like, oh, like it's 3 o'clock in the morning and the phone is ringing. You're like, who is it? And she's like, hello? And then it cuts black. You're just like, who the hell was it? And then the next week comes and it's like, it's just the wrong number. Okay. It's like they would totally like psych you out every episode. You're just like, ah. Whereas Game of Thrones, it's like there's always something big and bad just lurking. It's always there, Yeah. So really paced well.
Yeah, it's totally paced well. And even if they end it, they may end it on something that resolves, but it's very clear that the choices that people make on the show have consequences one way or the other. So someone is saved, but by them being saved, that means that everything else over here is going to get really crazy because of this one decision that someone made. Either she is a pawn that is, or she. I'm thinking of
Sansa.
I'm thinking of Sansa in this instance. We're like, yay, she got out. Fuck, it's Littlefinger. And with her gone, oh my God. Oh, King's Landing is going to freak out. This is potentially really bad, And we don't know exactly what his intentions are, ever.
Oh, you know what his intentions always are.
Well, Littlefinger. You lost the mother. You married the crazy sister of the mother. And now you get the daughter.
Exactly.
He got the reset.
He's just like one of those people that it doesn't matter. It's always about him. It's what he wants. We were actually just talking about this the other night. and if he doesn't get what he wants, he'll destroy it. You know, that's Littlefinger.
Yeah,
He's a shitty person, super shitty person.
But I have to give this show and HBO in general a lot of credit because it's something definitely like I know you and I have talked about growing up, coming up in the '80s and seeing movies go from. There's just things that you expected in certain kinds of fare. Like more popular movies will pretty much always have a degree of violence and special effects, and someone's top is coming off. Whether it doesn't even have to serve the story. It's just we're 30 minutes in. Someone's got to like run out of a laundromat, because it's on fire or something, and just be like, just someone has to run down the hallway with their tits out, no matter what movie it is. It doesn't have to be a star, but it has to happen, right?
Even like a Die Hard, there's that moment where he was in the maintenance room, and there's the pinup, and he takes a moment like, "Hey, how you doing?" So it's like even when there's not actually like nudity, there's still nudity in the movie. It's Die Hard.
It is totally it was. You're right. It's everywhere. Big Trouble in Little. It wasn't Big Trouble in Little China. No. There's another one where there's just like a brothel gets stormed and people are running out, and there's just like just unknown mystery boobs, just run stunt boobs.
Yeah, like 80s and early 90s. It was all about just like, we've already got an R rating. All right, throw the boobies in. It's like.
yeah. But it's funny that it seems like the movies just kept getting like more overblown. They got away from nudity, more into special effects and that kind of craziness. And then I don't know, it just kind of like both with maybe political correctness and just the audience shifted so that now when you go to movies, like really no one's getting naked unless it's a art house or independent film. And then there's HBO, who is doing an incredible job of not just, it's not like a renaissance of sex and violence in the old gratuitous exploitative ways, but when it happens, it serves the story, whether someone is naked for erotic reasons or really humiliating, awful reasons. When it amps up how terrible a situation is, it's a symbolic exposure and vulnerability, and it really you're like naked, but at the same time you're like ooh, you really feel for the character more.
Yeah, and there's a lot of times, especially in scenes involving like Littlefinger and characters like that, where I don't know if they do it on purpose. It might just be them saying like, oh, let's get some more boobies in there. But it also kind of comes across as there's an extra layer of vulnerability to like all these characters that are caught in these situations. And I think you hit a great point in saying stuff like that, because there is like when Littlefinger's dealing with like a couple of like the prostitutes in his brothel or whatever, they are just things for him. Like that's how he sees them. That's how he treats them. That's how those dialogues go. It's like, it's just men and women that are naked on display. They're just commodities. They're not people to like people like Littlefinger and the other royals and things of higher class people. They're just like, they're just whores. It's like whatever. And it comes kind of back to the whole Tyrion thing, where he's the moral barometer of like everyone else. He's like that constant. And he actually treats prostitutes better than like most royals. He's a straight shooter. He's like, we're just doing business here. I enjoy it. Thanks. It's like he doesn't treat them like he owns them or anything like that. It's just,
he doesn't use it to manipulate people. Like you said, it's a clean transaction. He probably realized a long time ago that most women won't even have him because he's the imp. And he's the despicable Lannister, and he's the mistake, and the mother killer, or whatever the fuck. So that, he lives in a very black and white, honest world because of, maybe in response to all the deceptions that his family throws around. They just throw people and situations around and lies. And it's amazing that he can maybe lie. Wow, I'm like writing it as I'm as I'm saying it, but it's almost like it wouldn't work for him. It wouldn't benefit him to lie, because no matter what, like he looks in the mirror and he's got to deal with, I am still the imp. Everybody knows who I am. This is my life. So he lives a truthful life. It's pretty amazing. It's an amazing
Mm-hmm.
character in that respect. But yeah, likewise with the what I've never felt like it was exploitative. You know, again, initially Daenerys Targaryen came out and her nudity was exactly like you said. You know, the royals treat people like commodities and a means to an end. And this guy was selling out his own sister. She's naked and hot, and it wasn't incestuous. She was a means to an end.
Yeah.
And that was.
Well, like he says in that one scene, he's like, I would let every one of those men and their horses fuck you if it would give me my army. You know, it's like that was straight up. He didn't see her as a sister any longer, just a commodity to help buy him the throne. So.
Well, he thought he was a god. He thought he was the king of dragons or the father of dragons. And you know, it's when the actress who plays Daenerys said that, you know, she doesn't look like she's ever gonna do another nude scene in this show or maybe ever any other movie.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure wankers of the internet wept and feel like they've been backstabbed. But looking at her character, she never needs to do that ever again.
No, it doesn't. Exactly. It kind of, as her character, I don't really see her being in many situations where she has to do something like that again. So. Yeah.
But it's what is also really great about this, and I'm always a big proponent of fairness, and especially fairness in the sexes, is in general there's a pretty good balance between it's not one for one for sure, but it's a good balance between male nudity and female nudity, and it's not necessarily always someone you want to see naked. But when it happens, I can only applaud because, again, just it's fair. It's fair to me.
Yep.
Yeah. Now, Carl, what do you think about this? We're no strangers to the seedier side of the internet. One thing that's interesting is it's kind of unnerving in my modern sensibilities, is that even though it's kind of it's a fantasy world, but it's still very medieval. So when you'll have these girls come out and they're completely shorn, I'm like, really? Come on.
Yeah.
So it just come on.
It's like, oh, so they had waxing back then.
Yeah, right.
And even like dudes, now you mention it, like there's really not a whole lot of like hairy dudes either. So
exactly. So I'm wondering, you know, but as the show's gone on, and I'm thinking of the prostitute Roz, you know, she grew hers back because you know what? It fits the character. Where are we? There's no beaches. Nobody's going to summer in whatever islands, you know. So, I'm wondering if this will start to bring back hairy junk. I wonder if this will start the new trend.
Hey, yeah, I don't know. Some people are really on one side or the other of that issue. I'm not. I'm just one of those people. I'm like, meh. Because even as far as like, you know, like I've had women say, "Oh, I'm not going to shave my armpits anymore." I'm like, "That's cool, whatever." You know, it's like I don't. So I mean, like I don't even shave my face. How can I make like everyone else must keep their body hair trimmed? I'm like, I don't care.
Well, that's very fair, very just and fair.
I try to be. I mean,
exactly.
Hold people to the same standard I do. So.
See what great guys we are.
I just realized I'm shrugging, and like probably no one's seeing it. I'm just like,
I know. I was trying to vocalize a shrug. Yes.
Yeah.
That's my vocalize of a shrug.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It is interesting though, and I'd never thought of that before. So.
Well, shows where my brain goes.
Well, you want to go ahead and wrap it up for today then?
Absolutely. Let's put a merkin on this sucker and send her out to.
I'm so glad you said it because I was thinking it. I was trying to work merkin in. Oh.
Yeah.
God bless you, sir.
Hey. Look it up, kids.
Well, if you have a preference about that sort of thing, if you're like Playboy and do have a requirement for body hair, give us a call on the Republicon.
We want to know.
Yeah, 407-409-8749. 2 to 3 minutes, toll charges do apply. Or if you want to send us a voicemail through MP3, or if you want to write us a text, you can email us at voiceofrev@gmail.com. If any of that stuff went by too fast, go to vorradio.com. You can find links and all the information for the Republicom there. You can also find links to our Facebook group, past episodes, pictures, all sorts of little fun things there. If you're listening on iTunes, be sure to stop by our YouTube, give us a like, subscribe there. And if you prefer audio, if you're seeing us on YouTube and you prefer an audio that you can take with you, check us out on iTunes or Stitcher. So.
Yeah, I keep forgetting about Stitcher. So I ran into a guy at C2E2 who actually does listen to us on Stitcher. So Jeff.
Really?
What's up? Yeah, nice. And that's all about us.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's wrap it up tomorrow. We got maybe a little bit more to talk about with this stuff, more Game of Thrones, and your feedback, because you matter to us.
Mm-hmm.
We need your feedback and your money.
You keep us going. Not the money, though. I mean, clearly.
Yeah, it's very obvious that's not a priority for you. Yeah, awesome. Cool. So we'll be back tomorrow. More Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm. So until then, may the Force
be with
Lettuce. Ta-da!